and we will get cracking. All right, so hey there, and welcome to the US Web Design System monthly call for February of 2023. This month, we're celebrating Black History Month with shades of green, gold, orange, and brown, as well as Valentine's Day, which just happened a couple days ago this week with shades of pink. And President's Day next week with red, white, blue, and gray. Slide 2. My name is Dan Williams, he, him, and I'm the USWDS product lead. And this is my avatar here on the screen. Dark hair, blue sweater, collared shirt. We'll see a little bit more of this fellow a bit later in the call. I'd also like to mention that when we introduce ourselves in these calls, you'll hear things like self-descriptions and pronouns. These help everyone share the same context and know a bit about who we are, whether or not you can see us. And if you're looking at me on camera, I did my best to match my avatar today with a dark blue sweatshirt. Well, I have a pink collared shirt, but close enough. So first, I'd like to mention that we're recording this monthly call, so please refrain from turning on your camera. We'll manually turn off any cameras or prevent them from turning on at all to ensure the recording doesn't show us on camera. Unfortunately, while we are recording this call, we currently aren't able to share the video publicly. I'd also like to remind you that by voluntarily attending this Digitalgov event, you agreed to abide by Digitalgov's community guidelines, digital.gov/communities/community guidelines. You can leave the meeting at any time if you do not agree to abide by these guidelines. We've posted a link to the community guidelines in the chat. If you're in the Zoom app, you can use integrated live captioning by selecting the CC button on the bottom of the screen. If you prefer live captioning in a separate window, we've posted a link to the live captioning in the chat. We'll be posting other links and references into the chat as we go along, and I encourage you to ask questions in the chat at any time. If any member of our team can answer your question in the chat, we'll do so. Otherwise, there'll be some time for questions and answers at the end of the hour. Also, be sure to introduce yourself in the chat as well. It's nice to know who's here, and it's good to have you here today. For those of you who find chat distracting, you're welcome to close or hide the chat window during the main presentation. You can reopen it during the Q&A session at the end of this call. So thanks. And with that, let's get started. Slide 3. So what's our agenda for today? Well, first, we'll look at a few great new site launches. And then I'll give a quick update on what to expect in the next USWDS release, USWDS 3.4.0. Then I'd like to give you a heads up about an important survey we're running right now. And then we'll spend the rest of our time here today talking about design tokens. And we ought to have some time left at the end for Q&A, so let's get right into it. Slide 4. It's been a couple months since we've called out any site launches in the call, but over the last few months, we've had a number of notable launches that are well worth your attention and kudos. Slide 5. First, justice.gov, the website of the US Department of Justice. The mission of the Department of Justice is to uphold the rule of law, to keep our country safe, and to protect civil rights. The homepage shows a Gov banner and a bold and crisp Department of Justice header with a large gold hero section that reads, "Celebrate Black History Month." Congratulations to the team on this design milestone. Slide 6. Next, OPM.gov, the website of the US Office of Personnel Management. OPM serves as the Chief Human Resources Agency and Personnel Policy Manager for the federal government. The OPM website shows a clean and inviting header with the OPM logo. In the hero area, we see a collage of images and the text, "Help build a better America." Nice job. That came out feeling insincere. I really mean that. Nice job. Slide 7. And finally, SSA.gov, the website of the Social Security Administration. Social Security provides financial protection for our nation's people. SSA administers retirement, disability, survivor, and family benefits, and enrolls individuals in Medicare. The SSA.gov homepage gets right to business with a focused, action-oriented homepage. We see the Gov banner and an information banner at the top of the page. Then, after a concise header, we see a section focused on common actions related to applying for benefits before, during, and after. It is really inspiring to see such nice work. Slide 8. So congratulations and really great work to everyone. There's a lot of great work here from a lot of teams and a lot of people. Be sure to let our team know when a new site launches, either with an email or a note on the USWDS public Slack channel. Slide 9. So also, we're close to releasing a new update to USWDS, USWDS 3.4.0, that has a lot of nice small improvements. Slide 10. So USWDS 3.4.0 has a ton of key improvements, including improving and normalizing the display of disabled inputs, improving contrast of incomplete step indicator steps, allowing full page width headers, removing the grid dependency from the USA banner package. So if you import the USA banner package a la carte, it's going to sort of weigh a lot less. It's going to have a lot less CSS in it. And now we'll properly vocalize secondary navigation items as well. No longer will occasionally vocalize separator characters in between navigation items. Slide 11. So in the salesman voice, like, that's not all. Also in USWDS 3.4.0, we've improved the code to so that now you can put date pickers inside modals. That there was a quirk that prevented that before, but now you'll be able to include something like a date picker inside a modal. We've improved the wrapping of external links and the external link icon, which I know has been a little bit weird for a while. We're also improving the URL display for links from the in-page navigation. And we're allowing any spacing unit in alert padding settings. There's some instances where certain spacing tokens couldn't go into certain settings because of a math error. We fixed that math error so that now any legitimate spacing unit can be passed into alert padding settings. We also fixed something that was broken in the outline 05 utility. So if you're passing an outline of half a spacing unit with a spacing unit utility for outline, now it'll work the way you expect. And finally, allowing custom file formats for font face rules. This one is particularly exciting as it came out of a Q&A question from last month. The requester drew up an issue in GitHub, and we're on the cusp of releasing that new feature in the next release. So what that is if you're using a custom font and you're setting up tokens to do that, then previously you had to have that custom font in 3 different file formats, TTF, WAF, and WAF2. Now you can sort of, you'll be able to customize that output so that if you only have these files in WAF2, you'll be able to use just WAF2 and you won't get any errors. Slide 12. And that's USWDS 3.4.0. We're working on wrapping it up now, and that will be out this month. Slide 13. So we're currently looking for ways to improve how content is labeled and organized on the USWDS site. We want to improve our organization. We want to improve our navigation. We want to improve the way that we're directing folks to key content. So as a step toward that goal, we're hoping to discover what the most important tasks are that our users need to do again and again on our website, on the USWDS website. What are the main things you're looking to do? What are the things you're trying to understand? You can let us know by taking a 5-minute survey so we can make things better, with the goal of making things better for you on our website. You only need to answer the first 3 survey questions for your response to be considered complete. And the more responses we get, the better data we get, and the better we're able to act on your feedback. So look for that link to our top task survey in the chat. You'll also see it on the homepage of our website. And take the time to do it because it'll really help us out as we try to make our product better. So thanks. Slide 14. So we've set the table, taken care of business. Now it's time for talking tokens with a call sort of focused on USWDS design tokens. Slide 15. So before I get going, I'd like to introduce a couple of members of the USWDS core team who will be helping answer some of the questions that we want to address when we're talking about tokens, to help us talk about tokens. So first, I'd like to introduce Amy Leadem, a contractor and a front-end developer. Amy, do you want to say hi? Describe yourself for anyone audio only.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Leadem, and I have long brown hair, dark brown eyes, and today I am wearing a black and white striped sweater with a dark green motorcycle jacket.
Thanks, Amy. So next, I'd like to introduce slide 16, James Mejia, contractor and an engineer on the USWDS core team. James, do you want to say hi and then describe yourself for anyone audio only?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is James Mejia. I have short black hair, and I'm wearing a white shirt with a cozy dark blue sweater.
Thank you, James. We will hear more from Amy and James in a little bit. And we've heard a little bit in our self-descriptions kind of about our appearance, about our hair sometimes, what length it is, what color it is. And I wanted to start this discussion of design tokens with something that is probably of critical importance to anyone using the design system. Slide 17. And that's the fact that I don't like getting my hair cut. Slide 18. So I'm pretty much always anxious when I go out to get my hair cut because I'm not sure what I want. And even if I did, I'm still like, even as what you should call an adult, I'm not sure how to ask for it. I don't know the language, and this prevents me not just from communicating well with whomever's cutting my hair, but from communicating really like with myself as well. It prevents me from really understanding what I'm thinking and what I think about that. And these things go together sometimes, like knowing the language and knowing what you want. If you can't express what you want with some clarity, and it can make it more difficult to know what choices you have to make and know what options are available to you. So a world of many choices, of all kinds of choices or ambiguous choices, not only makes it hard to choose, but it can sometimes obscure the fact that there are choices to be made at all. Language and choice go together. Giving a choice a name makes a choice communicable and repeatable. And in a way, it makes that choice real. Slide 19. So let's take another look at my avatar that you might remember from earlier slide. And for now, let's focus on its hair. Slide 20. in the world of haircuts, and especially in barbershops, sometimes folks try to make the choices that are available communicable and repeatable with things like charts and numbers, giving hairstyles names, or organizing looks by the clipper number. So let's call my avatar's haircut the Shaggy. Slide 21. And let's think about what different hairstyle choices might be available to what we might call an avatar builder. Now, you might be familiar with this concept, the concept of an avatar builder. It's a way to create different avatars, different little pictures of a character, a way to create different character images with modular swappable pieces. In the pre-digital era, you may have done this by pressing plastic noses into a potato. But today, there's even more range and flexibility than even plastic noses and glasses on a potato. Now, the USWDS design kit comes with an avatar builder. And this avatar builder includes a range of swappable hairstyles. They're long ones like gentle wave, straight, curvy, straight strand, fro, shaved sides, and bob. And short ones like Caesar, short round, short flat, shaggy. That's the one I always choose for whatever reason. Short curly, frizzle, and short dreads. Slide 22. So each of these hairstyles is an available choice or option. Any avatar could have any one of these hairstyles. They're identified, distinct, and swappable. When we design with this avatar set, we don't need to craft a new hairstyle for every avatar. Each one doesn't need to be drawn from scratch, adjusting images and vectors to create something custom. We can use this controlled vocabulary to choose a very specific item we need instead of inventing a personal vocabulary for every decision. So on this slide, we see all of the same hairstyles as the previous one, except with a face added to it, with sort of a default avatar set to it that we'll begin to customize. Slide 23. So these hairstyles, these individual choices, identified, distinct, and swappable, are what we could call hairstyle tokens available to our avatar kit. And here we get to the somewhat abstract definition of what a design token might be. Like, a token is really just a name that signifies an available choice. So we can see some of the examples of what tokens might mean for hairstyles, but all kinds of things can be tokenized. Something like clothing could be tokenized in all types of ways. For example, there may be style tokens for shirts. There may be specific choices for shirts. Let's just say Oxford, Aloha, and Tuxedo, for instance. And each of these could have its own set of color tokens. We want a blue Oxford. We want a white tuxedo shirt. We want a vivid Aloha shirt. And there could be sizing tokens based on like measurements for like neck, chest, and sleeve measured in something like inches. Or there could be a simplified set of sizing tokens like small, medium, and large, what we commonly call t-shirt sizing in design. Slide 24. Our avatar set for building avatars doesn't bother with sizing tokens for clothing. It's really just one size fits all, and it just focuses on style and color. For example, I could swap out what I have currently set for my avatar as collar and sweater for a hoodie token, or a graphic tee, V-neck, scoop neck, a blazer and crew neck, or for overalls. Slide 25. And there are all types of choices available to an avatar builder, and each of these choices has a different type of token. Just as there are hairstyle tokens, there could be tokens, and there are tokens in the avatar builder for something like skin tone. Here we see a range of skin tones from tone 0 on the left to tone 6 on the right. Slide 26. We could add in eyewear tokens like these for no token with none, or round eyewear, prescription 1, eye patch, the Kurt, deal with it sunglasses, or prescription 2. As you begin to layer these tokens together, you begin to see that these characters begin to have distinction. Tokens can be along one axis, but they can also be layered on top of each other to form a type of composite. Slide 27. We're going to keep adding and layering with facial hair tokens like fancy mustache, goatee, light beard, or heavy beard. Slide 28. And eye and mouth tokens as well, like crying eyes and a sad mouth, teardrop eyes and an eating mouth, side eyes and a serious mouth, or closed eyes and a default mouth. Slide 29. So as I'd mentioned, as you layer tokens, as you apply them to a design, they can have a cumulative effect. Choice interacts with choice to produce what you might think of as the expressive range of the system. What types of outcomes are possible given the available choices? Sometimes even limited tokens can have a wide expressive range, especially when combined with other tokens. But it's important to understand that with tokenized decisions, the expressive range may be narrow or broad, but it will almost never be comprehensive. These avatars may be evocative of the person they're meant to represent, but they will almost never be the best representation. The challenge with any system of design tokens is to make it easier to get to good enough. Slide 30. But it can be a complex and deep question, and an important question to consider what it means to be good enough for a set of decisions or options. In this hairstyle example, there are more than a dozen options, but there certainly aren't every type of hairstyle that exists. Creating a controlled vocabulary and a discrete set of options very often excludes other options for most sets. We include these hairstyles, but not those. We include these colors, but not those. The goal is to simplify choice by creating a simplified model of a complex reality, but just how we simplify the model can have some profound and important implications. Looking at avatars helps us understand choices and palettes when it comes to tokens, but it can also highlight the problems with fixed palettes as well. What if you don't see your identity reflected in the available options? What's lost when we attempt to simplify? We have to be very sensitive to a line between simplification and oversimplification in a descriptive system, and try not to lose anything critical in the model. This is a sensitive issue, particularly when you're thinking about a controlled vocabulary that's meant to communicate something specific, particularly about a person or an organization's identity. Omitting certain types of choice and favoring others can be a type of bias, of even identity erasure and an unintended silencing that we need to work hard to understand and avoid. It makes sense that teams can be passionate about colors and fonts. Identity and expression matter in a real way. We have to be careful with the power of good enough, like understanding that it is a powerful design tool and one that's necessary in any complex process, but one that always has to be balanced by constant feedback, by listening, and by adjustment. Slide 31. So when we talk about tokens, when we're looking at these avatars, we're talking about things like hairstyles, clothing, color, facial hair, and eyewear. For any system where design choice is an element of the system, design tokens are the specific choices available to users of that system. So what do design tokens look like in the US web design system? If we kind of push our frame out from thinking about this avatar builder into USWDS, what do tokens mean in the context of USWDS? And for that, I'd like to pass it over to Amy.
Thanks for the great illustration, Dan. Hello again, this is Amy speaking, and I am here today to talk about how tokens are used in USWDS. To do that, instead of an avatar, let's look at something that's actually in the design system, a button. In this slide, you see the customizable properties in a component like a button, just like an avatar. However, instead of changing things like hairstyle, clothing, and eyewear, we are changing font size, font family, color, padding and margin, border radius, and shadow. For each of these properties, USWDS offers a corresponding palette of tokens to help you make decisions, changes, and adjustments. Slide 33. In the design system, just as in the avatar, tokens are names for distinct choices and are used in place of hard-coded values in your project. For example, if you want an element to have a small shadow, you could use the shadow token of 1. If you want it to have a larger shadow, use the next larger token, 2. You do this instead of writing the special syntax for a box shadow property in your CSS, which for shadow 1 would be 0, 1 pixel, 4 pixels, 0, RGBA, 0.1. And tokens aren't random, and they aren't arbitrary. They're designed to be good choices that work well together and to give designers meaningful and distinct choices at common decision points. Slide 34, please. To illustrate, let's take a look at the USWDS spacing tokens. The diagram in this slide shows the distribution of USWDS spacing tokens between 0 and 120 pixels. You may notice that the tokens aren't exactly evenly distributed. Some are, but there are proportionally more sizing tokens at the smaller end of the sizing scale than at the top. This is to give designers more choices where there is more perceptual and proportional difference. For instance, there can be as much perceptual difference between 1 pixel and 2 pixels as between 48 pixels and 56 pixels, since the difference is proportionally greater between 1 and 2 than between 48 and 56, even if the absolute difference is greater between the larger sizes. USWDS spacing tokens use an 8-pixel base, which means 1 unit is the equivalent of 8 pixels. This means that 2 units are 16 pixels, 3 units are 24 pixels, and so on. However, at small sizes, we also have half units, moving in increments of 4 pixels up to 24 pixels. As a side note, I should also mention that while we're talking about pixels when we're discussing spacing tokens here, in USWDS code, under the hood, the design system converts all these values into units called rem, which tend to better respect screen magnification and user size preferences, improving the accessibility of USWDS projects. Slide 35, please. The 4 and 8 pixel multipliers in USWDS spacing units have another benefit. Since every multiple results in an even number, any element built with USWDS spacing tokens will center evenly with any other. And multitudes of 8 also divide evenly into common device screen sizes as well. Increments of 5 pixels might make it easier to do the math in your head, but 8 pixels has more important practical benefits. And one of the benefits of using spacing tokens is that you can get away from doing math at all. Just increment up or down a spacing token to try larger or smaller options in your designs. Slide 36. Design tokens can also use meaningful naming to help anyone make easier decisions. To dig into this, let's take a look at USWDS color tokens. This slide shows an abstract visual representation of the RGB color space, or the way that computers can represent colors using a mix of red, green, and blue light. In this model, there are more than 16 million possible colors. There are a few ways to access RGB colors in web style sheets, and one of the most common is something called a hex code, or a 6-digit hexadecimal string. Without deep familiarity with these strings, they can be pretty inscrutable. Let's try to find the hex code 73B3E7. Where do you think it is? If you guess that it's a light blue, that's right, and you're much better at reading hex code than I am. If you aren't versed in hex values, the way we typically think about colors doesn't have much intrinsic meaning. And what if you wanted something a bit darker than that shade? What hex color would it be? And what if you wanted to change to orange, or just a warmer blue? How would you make that decision? Slide 37. USWDS color tokens are a way to more easily understand color and color relationships without understanding either hex codes or much color theory. Instead of using codes, USWDS color tokens use plain language Roy G. Biv names for colors. We've winnowed the 16 million colors in the RGB color space down to 25 color families and 3 grayscale families with vivid variants for each of the color families. This means that there are color families like red, blue, mint, orange, and blue warm. But how do you know if a color is a light color or a dark color? Slide 38. This is where color grade comes in. Each USWDS system color token has not only a color family, but a grade from 0 to 100 in increments of 10, plus 1 more at grade 5. Grades indicate the brightness of a color from 0, which is pure white, to 100, which is pure black. So a grade of 50 is right in the middle between pure black and pure white. Grade 5 is very light. Grade 90 is as dark as it gets before turning into pure black. Color families also have vivid variants for grades 5 through 80, indicated in the color token system with the suffix V. If blue 50 is a blue token of medium brightness, blue 50V is a similar color, but more intense. We've normalized these grades across color families so that a color of grade 50 in one color family will be approximately the same level of lightness as a color of grade 50 in another color family. This plain language and clear structure helps not only with choosing colors and understanding color choices, but it makes it a snap to know what to try if you want to try a color that's a little darker or a little lighter. Just move up or down 1 grade increment. Remember the hex code from earlier, 73B3E7? Well, that's the absolute value for the USWDS color token blue 30. Is it at least a little easier to visualize blue 30 than 73B3E7? We hope that you think it is. Slide 39. And there's one more really useful benefit of using USWDS color tokens: simple contrast calculations. We use a term called magic number to describe the difference between any 2 color grades in any family. For instance, if you had blue 80 and gold 20V, the difference between 80 and 20 would result in a magic number of 60. This is kind of magical because in the USWDS color system, any color pair with a magic number of 50 or higher achieves WCAG AA color contrast. So if your site has a background color of gold 5, you know that you need to have text and buttons with a color grade of 60 or higher to assure WCAG AA contrast. You don't necessarily need to have grids of color combination with big red X's through half of the combinations, as long as everyone on your team understands USWDS color tokens and magic number. Also, magic numbers of 40 achieve WCAG AA large color contrast, and magic numbers of 70 achieve WCAG AAA color contrast. Slide 40. The last key token types I'd like to discuss are font family and font size tokens. In a way, font family and font size tokens are a bit of a mixture of spacing tokens and color tokens. On this slide, we see a similar distribution visualization showing a strong cluster of font sizes at the bottom of the scale. The 10 pixel micro token is a little bit of an outlier since its small size is hard to read and only appropriate in limited situations. Most of the other tokens are clustered in the 12 to 20 pixel range, which is where we find the most common reading sizes, both on desktop and on mobile devices. then fewer tokens as we move up in size with a few steps along the way for common heading sizes and very large display sizes. Slide 41. However, there are a few quirks with type size, and that's because different fonts can appear to be different sizes at the same absolute pixel size. For instance, 48 pixels or any size in the Meriwether font displays much bigger than the equivalent size in the Source Sans Pro font. On this slide, we see three fonts commonly used in USWDS projects: Public Sans, Meriwether, and Source Sans Pro. It may seem a bit subtle, but the Meriwether example is the biggest of the three. The Source Sans Pro example is the smallest of the three, and Public Sans is somewhere in the middle. Just as with color tokens, we want the font size tokens to be as swappable as possible, and teams should be able to expect that a USWDS font size token, like font size 20, has a similar size regardless of the typeface they're using, just as the color token red 50 should be about the same brightness as blue 50. In order to make this work, we need to do something behind the scenes math in our style sheets to adjust the size of specific typefaces to assure that they appear optically similar to other typefaces using the same font size token. Slide 42. We call this behind the scenes math font size normalization. I'll toggle between the slide and the last slide a couple times so you can see the difference. You can see that the Public Sans example stays the same size, while the Meriwether example got smaller and the Source Sans Pro example got larger. When we use USWDS font size tokens to set font size, we get more consistency than when changing fonts. If you've ever updated the fonts in your projects and seen dramatic layout shifts, this is what we're trying to limit with font size normalization. Slide 43. The last concept I'd like to introduce is the concept of USWDS theme tokens. All of the tokens we've discussed here are what we call USWDS system tokens. They are the immutable set of design tokens available to every team that uses the design system. If one team uses a red 50, it's the same red 50 that any other team uses, and that goes for any other token, like font size 6 or 2 spacing units. System tokens provide a broad expressive palette of design options, and they're meant to be consistent across teams and projects. This means they're not editable. Teams can't define a new color for red 50, but teams do have opportunities for customization, and that's in how they subset these large palettes of system tokens for their individual project. No single project, except the design system website, is going to use every single color available in the design system, and they probably don't want or need 21 different font sizes either. Not only are all these tokens overkill once your teams determine its design direction, but they can be hard to use and remember. What exactly was our project's primary color? What were the font sizes we were using? This is where theme tokens come in. Slide 44. Theme tokens allow teams to create project-specific subsets of design tokens. I like to imagine a brand new box of crayons. You know, the big one with all the colors in them. These crayons are the system tokens. For every project, you'll make a selection of colors from this box that are the best fits for your project. These colors are the theme tokens. The key sets of theme tokens are theme color tokens, theme font size tokens, and font type and font role tokens. Slide 45. Theme tokens have different naming schemas than their system token counterparts. They may be closer to the way you might name colors and sizes in non-USWDS projects by use and with relative naming, like t-shirt sizing small, medium, and large. Essentially, theme tokens create a new set of project-specific tokens by mapping system tokens to a new set of theme token names, which are defined in USWDS settings. Here, we see a simplified map that sets up 9 t-shirt sizes for theme spacing. The 3XS theme token gets the font size 2 system token. The 2XS theme token gets the font size 3 system token. The XS theme token gets the font size 4 system token, and so on and so forth from 3XS to 3XL. Now, instead of using a numeric font size token in your code, you'd use a project-specific t-shirt size instead. And if you ever updated the theme token value in your settings, your code would update to match. With theme settings, you have even fewer decisions to make when choosing tokens. Slide 46. Some theme tokens, like color tokens, also introduce a level of abstraction into your token set. So not only are you tracking fewer tokens in your project, but the tokens you do use are grouped logically by how they're used in your project. Theme color tokens are organized by use, with primary, secondary, accent cool, accent warm, and base, which is typically meant to be the text color, with a lightness range from lightest to darkest. For example, say you have selected green cool 50 to be one of your site colors. From there, you might determine that you want it to be the primary color in your palette. After you add it to your project settings, green cool 50 will automatically be added to any place the primary token is referenced. Slide 47. State color tokens are similar to theme color tokens. They just apply to error, warning, success, info, emergency, and disabled states. Here we see a set of system color tokens mapped to some of the state color tokens available in the design system. Just as with theme color tokens, they allow a lightness range from lightest to darkest. Slide 48. The final two types of theme tokens are font type tokens and font role tokens. These two types of tokens allow you to use more abstraction in your code by assigning font face tokens to a few font types: sans, serif, mono, lang, and icon. Slide 49. Font role tokens provide a similar level of abstraction for the roles of UI, heading, body, code, and alt. The example in this slide shows that you can assign font type tokens to font role tokens. That is, instead of assigning a font family token like public sans to the UI role, you can assign a type-based token like sans instead. Slide 50. So we've covered a lot of ground here today, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have some good questions in the Q&A later. There are a lot of details related to tokens and how we use them in the design system. But the important thing is, if you're working on a project and you're trying to make a design decision related to how something looks, check out the design system website first and check to see if there's a set of choices we've already defined with tokens. Who knows, it just might make your life easier. And now I'd like to pass it to James, who will discuss how we actually use tokens in the code. James?
Hey there, everyone. Thanks, Amy. Slide 51. So I'd like to build on what Dan and Amy have presented so far and get into how design tokens work in USWDS code. Slide 52. Let's start with a little tour of a design token documentation page. In this slide, we have a screenshot of the spacing units documentation. Spacing units can be used to set padding, margins, borders, and even breakpoints. We have a documentation page for every token type, which is a great reference when building out your project. Slide 53. Here we see a reference table that includes all of the spacing unit tokens available with their values and an example so you can visualize the spacing units. We can see the 1 unit token is visually equal to 8 pixels, as well as tokens for more fine-grained values such as 2 pixels or 1.5 units. Slide 54. At the bottom of the spacing units page, you'll see the many ways that you can access spacing tokens in code. We'll take a closer look at that in the next slide. Slide 55. So this section shows the available functions, mixins, utilities, and settings that accept the spacing unit token. This shows that you can pass a unit token values into the unit's function, the add media breakpoint mixins, declare them as values in system theme settings, or use them in your utility classes. Slide 56. USWDS provides many ways to easily access all of these tokens. In this example, we can see a token name passed as a value to the function. If you were styling and wanted to use a token as a CSS property value, you'd use the appropriate function. For example, in our last slide, we saw that unit tokens can be passed into the units function. You can also add a font family token to the family function or a color token into the color function. USWDS will read the token name and return the appropriate value on compile. When you're using tokens, you can't access the values directly. Tokens are just the name that you pass to a function or mixin to get the right value when your code compiles. Slide 57. Here we see a mixin example, and mixins follow a similar pattern, but instead of simply outputting a CSS value, it will output both the property name and the value. The U stands for utility and allows us to easily sort these mixins in our styles. The utility mixin name will also follow the utility class name for simplicity, and we'll see more examples of that in the future. So in our current example, the mixin will take care of writing out a valid CSS property and value for us when the code compiles. Slide 58. A utility class is a single purpose class that applies just that token to the specified property. Utility classes can be helpful when prototyping. USWDS generates utility classes for each of the available tokens for a given utility. So these classes are structured so that you can first name the utility you want to use and then append the appropriate token value at the end of it. Since utility classes are already included in the design system, there's no SAS compilation necessary. We'll see more examples in the following slides. Slide 59. And finally, you can use tokens to define your USWDS theme settings. Theme settings allow you to easily tailor the look of the design system to your project needs. You can make big changes across the theme easily by simply passing tokens to the theme settings variables. Slide 60. Now we're going to look at a more realistic example. We have two very distinct looking widgets. The first widget is compact and uses the primary theme color token to set a blue background with a sans serif font. The widget right below it has more padding, a transparent background, and it uses a serif font set in gold to match its border color. In the code example on the right, we can see that tokens are being used to pass into functions. These function and token pairs set the color, the type, and sizing. In the first widget, we're accessing the primary color token with the color function, and we're passing in the primary value. We're setting the text color with color white. Font family is set with family sans. The font size takes 2 parameters to set the size. You pass in sans and the family type XL as the size. We need to pass both of these because, well, we need to pass both of these into the family function because of the USWDS font normalization technique that Amy had discussed earlier. Finally, we're using 1 unit of spacing to set the padding. The second widget uses the same functions as the first, but passes different token values. We're using color, transparent, to set the background color, color, gold 20V to set the text color, family, serif for the font family, and again, size, we're passing in serif and XL to set the font size. For padding, we're using 2.5 spacing units into the units function. Slide 61. And we can do the same with utility mixins. These utilities will take a valid token and write out both the CSS property and the value for you. Like before, we're setting the same properties on these widgets, but we're using a different technique, which are utility mixins in this case. To set the background color, U-BG primary, the text color, U-color white, the font size and family with U font, and then we're passing in sans and XL, and the padding with U padding with 1 spacing unit passed in. And then the example, the second example uses the same technique to set the same properties, except it uses different token values to set those properties. Slide 62. An alternative method is to not modify the SAS at all, but instead modify just the markup. With utility classes, there's no need to run or compile anything. Instead, we can add the appropriate utility class to the element we want to style. Here, the widgets look the same as the previous examples, but we haven't touched the SAS at all. You might recognize these utility classes from the utility mixins we saw earlier. That's because they follow a similar naming convention. In the first widget example, we're setting the background color with BG-primary, the text color with color-white, the font family and size with font-sans-XL, and the padding with padding-1. Like earlier, you can see the second widget follows a similar pattern. We're just using different token values at the end of those utility classes. Slide 63. So tokens are flexible. You can use them in a variety of ways, and you can use theme and system tokens together. You can use tokens in functions, mixins, and utility classes based on what fits your project the best. That's all I got for tokens. Thank you. Back to you, Dan.
Awesome. Thank you, James. This is Dan again. And slide 64. So tokens are a common language that we share, whatever role we play in the design process, whether designers, developers, researchers, writers, or even project managers. And tokens are a common language we share between projects. If you're working on a USWDS project, you're engaged with the language of tokens between roles, between projects, and even between agencies. And tokens are a common language that machines share. The style sheets written for one project or component are shareable between projects. Sharing services, sharing code, when we use this shared language, it makes it easier to build services that work together. You could think of tokens as almost like keys on a keyboard, that when we use tokens, we're using the same instrument, and we can use the same instrument without playing the same song. Slide 65. And that's the introduction to tokens. And I still don't like getting my hair cut, and maybe this will be my avatar the next time we're together on one of these calls.